Most people who head into the Appalachian Mountains think they know what to watch for. Snakes, maybe. Bears if they're unlucky. The usual list. And that list isn't wrong exactly. It's just incomplete. Because the Appalachians run for nearly 2,000 miles through some of the most densely forested, least monitored terrain in North America. And in that terrain there are animals that don't make the usual list. Animals that have been there the whole time, adapting, spreading, moving into new territory. And the one at number 1 isn't what anyone expects. It's not a predator. It doesn't have venom. And it kills more people in this region than almost everything else on this list combined. Number 10, the black widow spider. It lives exactly where you reach without looking, under rocks, inside wood piles, in the gap between the porch and the foundation of every cabin in the Appalachian Highlands. The black widow is not aggressive. It doesn't hunt people. It sits in its web and waits, and the only time it becomes a problem is when someone puts a hand somewhere they shouldn't. And people do that constantly, because nothing about a woodpile or a pair of old gloves looks like a threat. The venom contains alpha-latrotoxin, a neurotoxin that causes immediate pain at the bite site, followed by muscle cramps, sweating, and systemic reactions that can escalate fast in children and elderly people. Fatalities are rare with treatment available, but in the remote areas of the Appalachians, treatment isn't always close. The spider that gets people isn't the one in the forest. It's the one in the shed they've been using for 20 years. Number 9. The brown recluse spider. It doesn't live in the forest. It lives in your cabin, your storage shed, the dry, undisturbed corners of rooms that don't get used often enough. And that's what makes it different from almost every other dangerous animal in this region. Because you don't encounter it on a trail or near water. You encounter it when you reach behind something you haven't moved in a while. The violin-shaped marking on its back is the identifier, but most people never see the spider clearly enough to identify it before the bite happens. The venom contains an enzyme that destroys cell membranes, and the wound it creates doesn't show up immediately. It develops. Over days, a necrotic ulcer forms that can go deep into the tissue and take weeks or months to fully close. About 70% of suspected recluse bites turn out to be something else entirely, which means the ones that are correctly identified are often worse than they look at first. Number 8, the wild boar. They were introduced for hunting, and they stayed and multiplied. And now there are over 25,000 of them across Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky alone. A wild boar weighs up to 300 pounds, accelerates to 30 miles per hour, and hits with enough force to break bone on contact. They're not ambush predators. They don't stalk. What makes them dangerous is the combination of size, speed, and complete unpredictability. During rutting season from September through November, males become territorial in a way that doesn't require much provocation to trigger. A hiker moving through the wrong area at the wrong time is enough. Pennsylvania emergency rooms have seen wild boar-related trauma cases double in the past decade as populations expand into new territory. A charging boar doesn't give you the kind of warning that most dangerous animals give you. It's already moving before the situation registers. Number 7. The copperhead snake, the most commonly encountered venomous snake in the Appalachians, and the reason for that is entirely the terrain. Copperheads live in the moist leaf litter and underbrush that covers the forest floor across this entire region. They blend into it completely. A copperhead lying still on a trail looks like a coil of dead leaves and sticks, and nothing else. Most bites happen when someone steps on or near one without seeing it, and the snake reacts to the pressure. The venom is less potent than a rattlesnake's, but it causes intense pain, significant swelling, and tissue damage, especially in children. Hospital records show copperhead bites accounting for nearly 30% of all snakebite admissions across the region every spring and summer. Not because they're the most dangerous snake here, because they're the one you never see before it happens. Number 6, the black bear. Over 1,900 bears live in Great Smoky Mountains National Park alone. They're everywhere in the Appalachians, and most of the time that's fine. because black bears are naturally shy animals that would rather leave than engage. The problem is conditioning. A bear that has learned to associate humans with food stops being shy. It becomes curious, and then bold, and then something that comes into a campsite at night, because it has learned that campsites contain things worth coming for. The park has documented 12 bear attacks over a 22-year period, 4 of which caused serious injuries. Those numbers sound small until you understand what they represent, which is that every single one of those attacks happened to someone who thought they were being careful enough. The bear didn't read the situation the same way. Secure your food. Every time. Without exception, because the bear that causes the problem is the one that has already decided the rules don't apply to it. And we're halfway through, and every one of those is an animal people have heard of. The ones below this point include things people don't put on this list, things that have expanded their range, moved into new territory, or been here the whole time in numbers that most visitors don't know about. Subscribe to Wild Warnings, because number 1 is going to change the way you think about what's actually dangerous in these mountains. Number 5, the American alligator. This one shouldn't be here, and increasingly it is. Alligators are not native to the high Appalachians, but confirmed sightings along the Nola River and other waterways near the southern foothills have been documented as recently as 2022. Warming temperatures are pushing their range northward, and the areas they're reaching are areas where nobody has historically needed to think about what might be in the water. An alligator bite force measures over 2,000 pounds per square inch. They are ambush predators that are nearly invisible at the waterline, and they move from still to explosive faster than the human reaction time can process. Across the United States, alligator attacks average 3 deaths per year. In the Appalachian fringe, the risk is less about frequency and more about the fact that the people near that water have no framework for it. They're not watching for it because they never had to before. Number 4, the timber rattlesnake, the most dangerous reptile in the Appalachians, and the reputation is earned. The hemotoxic venom attacks blood and tissue simultaneously, causing pain, severe swelling, and coagulopathy that can become life-threatening without fast treatment. The region averages 12 to 15 bites per year, and treatment often requires multiple vials of antivenom, driving medical costs to $15,000 or more per case. 2 fatalities were recorded in 2022 following delays in reaching treatment. And here's the thing about timber rattlesnakes that makes them particularly dangerous in this specific terrain. They migrate. Every autumn they move from summer ranges to winter dens at lower elevations, crossing roads, appearing on trails, and showing up in places where people aren't expecting them. The bite risk is high in summer. The collision risk on mountain roads is high in autumn. The snake doesn't stay in one place, and neither do the people who encounter it. Number 3, the mountain lion. Most people who spend time in the Appalachians have never seen one, and that's not because they aren't there. DINA surveys and camera traps confirm mountain lions moving through the range from the Allegheny Highlands down through West Virginia's deep forest. They are built entirely around not being seen. They hunt from above or from behind. They cover ground at night, and they select their moment with a patience that means by the time an encounter happens, the animal has already been watching for longer than the person knows. Over the past 30 years, 3 attacks have been documented in the region. None fatal, but each involved severe injuries from an animal that gave almost no warning before it moved. The rarity of encounters is real. The severity of the ones that do happen is also real. A mountain lion doesn't bluff. When it decides the situation has reached a threshold, you don't get a second signal after the first one. Number 2, the bobcat. Under normal circumstances, a bobcat is not a serious threat to an adult. They're small, they avoid people, and they'd rather disappear into the tree line than engage with anything larger than their prey. But bobcats with rabies are a completely different situation, and this is where the Appalachian-specific risk comes in. Rabid bobcats do not behave like normal bobcats. They approach people in daylight. They don't retreat when confronted. They attack without provocation, and they attack the face and upper body because of their size. And a rabies exposure that goes unrecognized and untreated is fatal. Every time. A bobcat bite or scratch that happens fast and gets dismissed as a minor wound and doesn't get treated immediately is the scenario that kills people. Not the animal itself, the gap between what happened and when treatment started. In the Appalachians, that gap can be significant depending on where you are when it happens. Number 1, the moose. Nobody expects this answer. That's the whole problem. You come into the Appalachians thinking about snakes and bears, and you walk right past the actual leading cause of large mammal injuries in the region without adjusting your behavior at all, because nothing in your mental model of this place told you to. Moose account for 23% of all large mammal injury cases, reported in Pennsylvania and West Virginia emergency rooms. More than bears. More than wild boars. More than anything with venom. A bull moose during the autumn rut weighs up to 1,500 pounds and accelerates to 30 miles per hour, and carries antlers spanning 6 feet and has a threat response that does not include warning shots. It doesn't bluff charge the way a bear sometimes does. It commits. And unlike a bear attack, which people have a cultural script for, most people encountering a charging moose in dense forest don't have the framework to respond correctly, because they never thought they needed one. The trauma surgeon's description in the regional medical literature is the clearest version of this. A charging moose can shatter a leg, open a wound, and leave a victim stranded faster than a bear can begin the same process. It's not the animal anyone is watching for, and that is exactly why it's at number 1. Every animal on this list has been in these mountains the whole time, some of them longer than people have, and the ones that kill aren't always the ones that look the part. The most dangerous thing in the Appalachians right now is the assumption that you already know what to watch for. So now you know. Which one changed the way you think about these mountains? Drop it in the comments. And if you want to know which American wilderness areas have the highest concentration of animals that will end your trip permanently, that video is next. Subscribe to Wild Warnings.